All right. Well, good morning. Welcome to Liberty Seated Collectors Club meeting. And we have folks also watching remotely. So welcome to them. How many do we have on remotely so far?
Currently about 13.
Nice. Okay. All right. And then I'll probably go off in a couple of minutes, I'm guessing. All right. How do I advance the slide here? Okay, this thing. Okay. All right. Excellent. All right. Well, the pre-meeting show and tell, I think, is like the best I've ever seen in any meeting. We got a 70 cc quarter here in 53 that hasn't been seen in like 40 years. A 73 cc quarter in 45 with exceptional luster. A lot of fun. Okay. All right. So we'll start out with our intros, group photo, and go through some updates. And then we'll get to the program. So let's introduce ourselves. I'm Len Augsburger, LSCC president and seated quarter collector.
Right? Everyone in the audience, please speak loudly so people online can hear you. The mic is all the way up there.
I'm Craig Eberhardt. I'm the secretary of the club currently. I've collected almost everything, but mostly I collect New Orleans. I'm from New Mexico.
Dennis Schwartz here from Tennessee. I'm a $50 guy and vice president. I'm Eric and I'm from Milwaukee. I collect seated quarters and halves. Okay, I'm Ken Otto from Houston and I collect quarters, halves, and dollars.
Greg Johnson, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, seated quarters.
Dennis Garstang, Kansas City, Missouri, collect seated dollars.
Tim Jewison. I collect most all seated, but partially to more seated quarters and seated dollars and half dimes.
Rick Berry, collect the seated quarters, halves, and dollars.
Bill Lipke, I collected seed dollars and $3 and extra 45 jack from the old Chelsea collection on the DC 33. So take a look.
Jim Taylor, I collect type, Canadian dollars and Australian pennies and half pennies.
I'm Chris Sutter from St. Louis and I'm captain.
Okay. Richard Chumpkins, Chicago area. I collect Liberty Seated by dye variety, quarters and everything else from colonial to binary gold.
Matthew Mayers, I'm from New York and I collect all seated denominations.
Darrell Lowe from New York, collecting most of the seated dimes and quarters.
Scott Grieve from the Chicago area, dimes and half dollars.
And Doug Noblett from Bowling Park, Kansas, primarily in the $50.
All right, very good. So we're going to gather for our group photo, maybe against this wall.
Against the wall. Yes, we can see
Yeah, you want to take a picture?
I figured that was my job.
Yeah, exactly.
Hold up your number.
Yeah, just Gary. Don't hurt us.
I haven't taken a good picture of you.
Okay.
Yeah, this is.
This is a tight.
They usually get that 50-yard thing.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. 3, 2, 1. Gonna take a couple to be sure no one's blinking. Beautiful.
Okay, thank you. Well, I don't know about beautiful, but.
Okay, I'm a professional model. You owe me
I can
$1,000.
Yeah, really.
All right, so let's go through a few club updates here. All right, dues renewal. Well, it's getting pretty late in the year. If you have not paid dues, you have not received the spring issue. And there are still some remaining. We did print extra copies, so it's not too late to take care of that. We can take care of you downstairs or here. Or provide you your current renewal status. All right, Dennis Fortier has been working on our grade marker for Christian Gobrecht, so I'll let him talk about that. Oh, and please stand between the black lines here.
Right. All right, yeah, this is our latest project. I'd hope to encompass it in the 50th anniversary, but there was so much to do, this kind of got put by the wayside. So anyway, the big thing is we're going to get a grave marker more suitable for Christian Gobrecht and his family. And we're going to be unveiling it right before the Baltimore Fall Show. So November 13th, 1 p.m. There will be an announcement with the address and all that information in the journal, as well as we'll be running it several times in the E-Gobrecht, probably starting midsummer. So we hope to get a lot of members to come out, hoping to get somebody from the Mint to come out as well. I have to get back in contact with them to see if we can get that done. But I think this is a real good tribute to Christian Gobrecht, other than the simple brass plaque that they have there now. It's a little more fitting. And we're really happy as a club to be able to do this for Christian Gobrecht and his descendants. We're actually reached out to descendants, and hopefully we'll get a few of them to come out as well. So, yes.
Question. Will the club be donating money to help, asking for donations to help pay for this? Or?
No, it'll be coming out of the club funds.
Oh, okay.
We have the money to do it.
We're always happy to accept additional donations.
Yeah.
We'll put your name at the bottom of the plaque.
Got a tin can right here. Yeah, no, it'll cost about, I think, $1,900, $2,000 to do it. So it's not outrageously expensive. We're happy, the club is happy to do that. One other thing as well, while I'm up here, we do have club shirts at the club table. I see most of you are not wearing them, so please stop by. We have a couple of gold shirts from the 50th anniversary left over. Those are the last. We also have a few of the darker ones like Len's wearing left over. We can sell those at a discounted price if we have your size. I got to make a reorder for the new lighter blue ones. So I only have a couple of those. So stop by the club table and get your shirt. Pay your dues if you haven't done so, and check out the display. Thank you.
Thanks for that note on the club shirt. So at the ANA summer seminar, we all wear our club shirts every day. And the building we're in is not air conditioned, so we all get a little bit gamey by the end of the week. So it would be good to have more than one shirt to wear to the summer seminar.
I get the order.
All right.
Yes, you want us 3 then. So.
Okay, publication updates. Greg, you want to say a few words?
Okay, so everyone should have received their spring issue by now. If for some reason you haven't, please reach out. We'll make sure that you paid your dues and then get you the journal. Hopefully you notice the things here on the slide. Nice new cover by Jim Maycor. He also wrote up the story behind it as one of the articles in the journal. And then again, I'll refrain from reading the slide. We'll mention, those of you who read it carefully, both of you, found a couple of errors. And so, Sergio and I are new to working together. We had a couple of things that didn't go quite how we would have liked. We're working on that. The deadline for the next journal is June 1st. We are actually quite full at this point. So always happy to submit. It's never too early. And I'll look at things prior to the next round as soon as you can get them in, as soon as I can. So And again, we can also reprioritize if you have something short that's more urgent. But right now, the summer looks like it's gonna be a very good issue, and it's very well subscribed at this point as far as having material. Any questions?
Cover with that. Very nice job on the new.
Oh, thanks to Jim.
Yeah, thanks.
Hopefully he's online and heard that.
It was present.
All right, so one of the advantages of publishing is that you pull information out of the woodwork. So Joel Meredith had an article on a seated $50 with Chinese engraving, which is apparently a poem or something. And after the issue came out, we had a contact from someone said, "Oh, I've got one that's kind of like that too." So there's more than one out there. All right. All right, address changes as always. Please let us know beforehand so we don't miss mailing the journal or getting it lost in the mail. All right, Gobrecht comes out monthly. Just an email blast that we do. Paul Kluth edits the Gobrecht, and if you're not on the email list for that, please share that with us and we'll get you at it. All right, let's talk about A&A Summer Seminar. We're not doing the LSCC class this year, but John will be there talking about trade dollars and 20-cent pieces in conjunction with the class on the barber material. So this is always a really nice event. It's one of the best things A&A does. It's kind of like a 4-day coin show, except there's not a lot of buying and selling. But you just hang out with coin people all day, and it's very pleasant. And, Colorado Springs is beautiful if you haven't been out there, so I highly recommend this event. All right, and there's still time to register. I believe there's still space in John's class, and there's a ton of other classes too. I'm taking a different class this year myself. All right, regional events. Ken, you want to say a few words?
Sure. Well, you can see on the slide in front of you, we have quite a few events coming up where the club will be represented. Obviously, current event is a big event for us, and we'll be at the small group will be at the PVCC next month. I'll be down in Raleigh with John Winston in June. Len will be in Baltimore, and then most of us actively involved in a regional program will be at the A&A in Rosemont later this summer. So we're always looking for additional people that want to participate in these events, and we're also looking for additional events that might merit our participation. I think the club has a very strong presence. We want to maintain it and optimistically grow it in the future if there's events. We're working on with one of our members to try to see if we can establish a presence in Denver right now. So that's all I have unless somebody has a question.
What's our table number?
210. We're at 210.
Not a question, but a comment. We're always looking for new people to display, so it's not the same displayers displaying all the time. We'd like to have a fresh display. So if you have any interest in displaying part of your collection, it's certainly worth talking to us about.
Good point. Okay, thank you.
All right, let's move on our program here. Question we're going to ask is, do the No Stars half dimes and dimes share common obverse? Let's dig in and see what we can learn. Okay, so at the A&A Summer Seminar, at the end of the week, we play this little game, guess the coin, and we put up a lot of pictures and ask everyone to try to identify the coins. Nobody in the entire history of this has ever gotten 100%. I made the slides and even I don't get 100%. I think Brian Greer might be able to get 100%. That's that. I'm not even sure about that. All right, so let's do a mini exercise here. Anyone care to identify the coin on the left? And the one on the right? All right, very good. You guys are experts. All right, same question. All right. All right, wow, this is a good crowd here. All right, so let's get a little context here before we get into the question of we're going to set a little context here, and then we'll get to this comparison between the no-stars pieces. All right, so Christian Gobrecht, as early as 1823, had an interest in getting into the mint. He wrote directly to the president in 1823 asking for the appointment when the first engraver died. That's kind of jumping above your boss, but for whatever reason, he thought maybe that might be successful. That did not work out. Instead, William Nias became the engraver. And at this time, this is a political appointment decided by at the presidential level. It's not like it is today where the mint director decides these things. So in 1825, and it seems that the mint director probably wanted Gobrecht, but was not able to get him for whatever political reason. So Samuel Moore tries to start pulling Gobrecht into the mint in little ways. So we have correspondence from 1825 that says, we checked him out when Robert Scott passed away, and we liked his work. But still, William Nias became the engraver instead, worked on the bust coinage in the 1820s. And but the director Moore still wants to pull in Gobrecht any way it can. So Gobrecht was paid for making punches for letters and numbers in the 1820s. So those portions of the bust pieces, some of those are from Gobrecht. And then later in 1825, Moore actually appeals to his management. The Secretary of the Treasury says, we'd really like to get Gobrecht in here if we could. And he actually got permission to offer Gobrecht $600 a year. Gobrecht declines because he's making a lot more privately. We don't know for sure, but I'm guessing it was around a couple $1,000s a year. So that didn't work out. But there's another thing going on here. Moore continues to try and engage Gobrecht, and we have documentation that indicates Gobrecht was paid for executing designs and models of dies in 1826. And there's something else going on here. I think Samuel Moore wanted to redo all the U.S. coinage. I think he was tired of the bust stuff. So he actually wrote to President Jefferson, who is fairly old by this time, but still around. And he just wants to know what kind of process, how did you do all the early coinage? How did you pick your designs and so forth? Because, he's thinking about redoing this. And Jefferson's response is very interesting. He says, I remember absolutely nothing about this. The only thing I remember is there was some controversy about whether George Washington should be on the coins or not. And that was it. And so the organization at that time was the mint director, the first mint director, David Rittenhouse, reported to Thomas Jefferson, who was the Secretary of State. At that time, the mint reported into the Secretary of State, later was changed to Treasury. So even though the mint director is right under Jefferson, he has pretty much no knowledge of what's going on in the mint. So that I thought was interesting. So I think basically all these decisions taken out of the early mint generally, I think were done under Rittenhouse, who was, certainly capable and trusted by Jefferson and Washington. All right, so we fast forward from the 1820s, and so these designs and models that Gobrecht did in 1825, we have no idea what they were. None of them have survived as far as we know. It's just something that's unknown. But eventually, the mint still wants to get Gobrecht in there. So eventually he's hired in 1835. And basically they were able to make a case for this because the branchments, Charlotte, Dahlonega, starting to produce gold. So there was a need for a lot more dyes. So they had a good reason to pull them in. So Gobrecht comes in, and then he was supposed to start at the beginning of 1836. But in the middle of 1835, the current engraver, Nias, had some stroke and had some level of disability. We don't know for sure how much. But in any case, when Nias had a stroke, mint director was able to bring in Gobrecht immediately. His title is kind of unclear. In the correspondence, it might say second engraver or assistant engraver. The title of engraver was a presidential appointment. And Gobrecht doesn't get that until 1840. So, and Nias himself in correspondence referred to Gobrecht as one of the engravers. So, so just a note on their titles there. And then eventually when Nias died in 1840, he gets the official appointment from the president, and that document still exists. It's a very big, impressive thing, and that's in the Historical Society of Pennsylvania. All right, and then Gobrecht was, you know, in that role for 4 years. All right, so now let's get into the mint technology a little bit. So in 1833, Franklin Peel was dispatched to go around the European mints and figure out what are they doing, what could we do better here. And this is a long trip. He's away for 2 years. And he wrote a very long 300-page report that you can actually go read. But he brought in some pretty important things into the mint. You know, the steam powered press is probably the one that most people think of. But he also brought in this contaminant lathe. And this was a pretty big improvement because prior to this, all your dies had to be cut directly by hand. And with the lathe, you could make a model in wax or plaster, and then the lathe would trace over that model and impart the same design onto a working die. So this could speed up die production considerably. There's some indication that the technology Franklin Peel was bringing into the mint met some resistance. There was George Eskel Sellers was a mechanic in Philadelphia. This is still a small town, so these people all knew each other. But he wrote some reminiscences of his career much later in the 1880s. And he notes specifically about the lathe that Gobrecht was somewhat resistant to it. He really wanted to do the stuff by hand directly on the dies and was opposed to using it. And then there's also a comment by Sellers that Adam Eckfeldt, who was the chief coiner, basically said that if Franklin Peel was allowed to bring in all his technology, he would just turn everything upside down. So there's some resistance. Peel's a young guy. He's coming back with all these new ideas from Europe. He wants to, you know, modernize the mints, and he's getting some resistance against sort of the old guard there. So all very, very understandable. But Peel's ideas did come in and they were implemented largely in the 30s and 40s. And with that period was probably the period of the most rapid advancement in the technology for its whole history. All right, so Gobrecht is finally chartered with redoing the U.S. coinage designs. We start with the Gobrecht dollar in 36. It's kind of interesting they did the silver coins first. I think maybe they did that because they were the most widely used, most widely seen in circulation. And then the gold and copper followed. And then within the silver, the dollar gets done first. And I think that's sort of because the dollar is sort of this iconic denomination among American coinage. The other thing we know about this, in terms of the documentation that survives from all this effort, there's more documentation related to the dollar than anything else. We have a lot of drawings of eagles that have survived. They're in the Smithsonian, as opposed to, say, a gold $5 piece from 1839. There's nothing in terms of drawings or designs for that. So I think the Gobrecht dollar was really kind of, it was Gobrecht's first best effort at reworking all of these coins. So sometimes Gobrecht dollars kind of seem overpriced, but there's some historical reasons for that. So, and I think that this is part of it. It's, it's kind of the most important design coming out of this whole cycle of redesign here. So, and just a side note, of the coins that we know Gobrecht saved, there's only one Gobrecht dollar. So he himself, I think, considered it pretty important, and as did the family. And that coin was sold by Bowers and Morena in the 1990s. Sold for like $14,000, which in my opinion is a steal, but I could not afford it at the time. All right, so now let's get into the gold. We're gonna play guess the denomination again. So starting on the left. Order, okay, and one in the middle.
Eagle?
Okay. It is a 5. So that kind of gives away what the one on the right is. It's kind of like in the beauty pageant when there's 2 people and they announce like the second place person first. Okay, yeah, so 255 and 10. And if you look at it this way, this gets a little trickier because you're just looking at the heads. So you can see that the 250 has kind of a more squat appearance. On the $5 piece, that the bridge of the nose is much longer than on the 250. And then the $10 kind of has like this more regal, elegant appearance. So, again, these are distinctly different things. And I think Gobrecht was really thinking about, how should these look different? All right, and then same thing on the copper. The date and the portrait are not completely oriented correctly or differently on this coin, so we can straighten them out like this through the magic of computer technology. And again, you can see there's subtle differences between the half cent and the large cent. The Liberty in the tiara on the half cent is like more centered, and then on the 1 cent it's like lower. The beads on the this portion here, there's like 3 rows on the half cent and 2 rows on the cent. So Gobrecht's making very deliberate decisions about, I'm not going to have a completely common design. I'm going to change some things a little bit, just because I think they work better on different denominations or different size plans that he's working with. Okay, and now finally we get to the silver. So what coin is on the left? All right, and yeah, dime on the right. Okay, now here we get to the fun part. This is an overlay of these 2 coins, and except for the date, it's a match. So all right, but extraordinary claims demand extraordinary proof, so we're gonna get to that. One other thing to note, so even though these come from the same model, there are differences in individual dies. Now, as an engraver, once you have the die, you can't add metal to it. You can only take away metal. So if you take away metal, it's going to increase the relief of the piece. So, so these 2 coins, even though I believe they're from the same model, and get to that a little bit here, there are differences in the individual dies. And so like on the the 10-cent coin, you can see more texture up around the shoulder here. And I think that's individual die work, showing that that portion was a little bit more dug out on the die. All right, now here's the fun part, and a big thanks to Roger Burdett for forwarding this to me. This is a letter from the Mint Director to the Secretary of the Treasury. And we'll just deconstruct this paragraph by paragraph. So first he says, I'm sending you some samples. Please show them to the president. So it's always good to point out your achievements to your management, which is exactly what he's doing here. And if you can pull the president in, that's even better. Now it was a short hop. He reported to the Treasury Secretary, who reported to the president. So, you know, this was a viable thing. All right. Next thing he says, it said to produce the dies for the head, which was the obverse. Said we've would have taken our engraver 2 months to create a die, and would have required great skill and labor. And then he says, but by this instrument, which I had made in Paris, which is the contaminant lathe, and which French word is tour à portrait, the hubs for both the dimes and the half dimes were cut in one afternoon and then required retouching. So even after you got something off the lathe, you had to rework that die a little bit. And then the end, he says at the end, they have the advantage of being exact facsimiles from some larger die. So that suggests that they were thinking about, can we just have one single model across all seated coinage? And that's not what happened, but this shows that this is kind of how this was originally conceived. All right. And then if we go to 39, the stars were added. The figure of liberty is the same. And I'll ask the audience what the coin on the left is. Half dime, all right. And the one on the right is the dime. And probably by now you've all figured out that I arranged these from lowest to highest. So it kind of simplifies things.
Yeah,
all
mix
right.
it up.
All right, and then we go to the overlay. And again, the central figure, it's the same. The stars are different, especially on the right. And that's because on these no drape pieces, the stars were punched in by hand. And if you look at the no drape dimes, the different die marriages have distinct star positions. And some of them are closer than others. And a couple of them are pretty exaggerated. And it's, you know, immediately obvious what the die marriage is just by looking at how the stars are arranged. All right, and then in 1840, we go to the with drape designs. And these are, you know, distinctly different. These are the heads from the with drape half dime and dime. And you can see the half dime head's a lot thicker, it's cruder. The dime still looks pretty well done. So the with drape designs are typically attributed to Robert Ball Hughes. And, you know, the thinking is that these coins may not be as finely engraved as some of the other ones. In the LSCC summer seminar class, we go through all the heads of Liberty throughout the entire Liberty seated series. There's a lot of things going on. You don't necessarily see these because, you know, they're small coins, and unless you really blow up the pictures, it's hard to get a good look at what's going on. But there are very distinct differences in heads throughout the series. Okay, so let's wrap it up here with just a few conclusions. So the central figure on no stars, half dimes, and dimes comes from a single model, an original model. It's common between both of them. The date was punched in separately, and if we go back to our overlay slide, you'll see that definitely different date styles for the half dime and dime. The half dime date is more level. The dime date is curved. It's got larger punches as well, relatively larger punches. It consumes more of the space between the base of the rock and the dentals. So definitely differences in the dates, but the central figure is coming from a common design source. All right, and then the individual dies still reworked, so they may show some differences. And then we asked the question, did the mint director look for a single model across all of the seeded coinage based on the same model? And there's some example, there's some rationale for this actually. If you have everything perfectly uniform, that can deter counterfeiting, because you just get everything, you can get more consistency across the coinage. The other rationale is that if you have a shared model, it's just less engraving work, and that probably appealed to the mint director, because then he could, you know, have less people doing engraving and perhaps pay them less because the work is a little bit more mechanized. So that would have been very appealing to management. And my feeling, and a lot of this is speculative, but I think Gobrecht probably pushed back against this idea of having, you know, a single model for everything, and perhaps compromised, said, okay, I'll use your lathe. I won't do the individual dies. I'll use the lathe to build the dies and then finish them by hand. But we're still going to have different ones for different denominations because artistically they look better, or you know, who knows. But in any case, clearly we did not end up with a single model. We're all a single coinage for the seeded coinage, but these two coins certainly seem to have started life that way. So kind of an interesting thing in terms of the evolution of the series. All right, I will open up for questions either online or in the room. Yes.
Can you turn the slide back to the 1837? Something there that I'm not sure if my eyes are deceiving me or not, but the hand where it reaches for the staff.
Uh-huh.
On the half dime, it looks like it's much closer to the hat as compared to the dime. Yeah, that seems a rather significant deviation.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Am I seeing things, or?
I don't see four fingers on both of them.
No, but I'm just saying the distance between the hand and the hat.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's a rather significant deviation.
Yeah. Let's see if we get any more information on the overlay here. Yeah, there is a little bit of the hat sticking out here. I would say that maybe that's not perfectly matched. So
The distance on the shaft part between the hand and the cap is different.
okay.
So you would think that if in fact that was done like that, they would have had to have made some rather significant changes to the die, to the die between the half dime
Yeah,
and the dime.
possibly.
That's a rather significant, it's minor when you really take a close look at it, but it's not the same.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, and I think probably some more photo studies of this part of the coin are in order. So yeah,
And
thank
the
you.
rock itself, there's just a little bit of difference there.
Yeah, so
Not much, very minor.
and some of this could be explained by refinishing, some maybe not. So yeah.
Pull up the side by side together.
Okay.
The rock is somewhat different. than two, like you said.
Yeah, that relative distance up to the hat, maybe not an exact match.
I mean, I can sort of see the reason why he did that, because he just didn't have the room on the half dime
Yeah.
as compared to the
Right,
dime. So
right.
something had to happen, otherwise that hat would have been into the,
Edge.
yeah.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have worked.
Well, since the dime is larger than the half dime, I would imagine that even using the same design, he would have had to make the dime's figure slightly larger, right?
The other point, I would also say, I'm not sure I quite blew this picture up quite, because these two images should be the exact same size. So that's going on there. So I think, maybe some reinvestigation of that point is warranted.
But your overall point is excellent.
Yeah, yeah, it's the documentation, certainly indicates they were trying to do the same thing.
Len,
Yeah,
but the Liberty cap on a half dime looks a little bit larger than that on the dime, and that would bring it closer to the hand. And that could have been re-engraving after the punch.
yeah. Could have dug that out some more, which would have been raised on the coin, so it's possible.
All this engraving and dye work was all in Philadelphia.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, yeah, I mean, even for the branch mints, all the dies were done in Philadelphia.
Mother Mint.
Yes, yeah, I mean, you have exceptions like 54 large oak quarter, which was probably hacked out by some guy, the coiner in New Orleans, but that's an exception.
Well, yeah, you have personally, the mint operator engraved, like say, 1944 Walking Liberty half, where the original AW and from the mint die, but then some were missing the engraving, so the mint or master or whatever took it upon himself and engraved the
Oh, okay,
in the die itself, instead of being recessed, it's actually raised, and I have a couple of them.
interesting, okay. Yeah, the individual mints did different things, like some of the early Carson City coinage, like sometimes called proof-like. And it was just the coiner in Carson City was polishing the dies, so there's differences at that level, but dies themselves all manufactured in Philadelphia. Yeah.
We have a comment from online. The 1837 dime Liberty also has a longer neck, the space between her shoulder and chin.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this, again, there's different texture in that part of the coin too. So I think clearly the engraver dug some things out there.
Overall, there seems to be more definition on the dime too.
Yeah.
Really more room to work with it.
Exactly, yeah.
So looking at the drapery around the knee and
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Any other questions? Yes.
Did you remember the one with where you have the stars?
Yes.
And you showed the heads, the two heads.
Oh.
One, yeah, that one right there.
Yeah.
The half dime on the left. And of course, the dime on the right. I'm wondering here. Was that a design change?
Absolutely.
Or was it just a bad spread?
Well, yeah, that may be part of it, but the width drape designs clearly differ between the different denominations. So these width drape pieces were redesigned. Oh, these were, new hubs.
It'd be interesting, Leonard, to see the no drapery and the drapery one with the half dime, and then as well as the dime side by side. That'd be a kind of a little bit different look.
Yeah, yeah. No, there's definitely changes happening there.
It's quite entertaining to read Walter Breen's encyclopedia about no drapery versus drapery. He was very critical with Draper coinage.
Yeah, and if you look at them, some of them closely, they're not
Oh,
that
they're
good,
Not,
so.
they're not remotely comparable.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're not really sure what was going on there. JD, Dan Reuther, believes that, Gobrecht was, getting sick during this period. And, there's a few blunders on some of the coinage in the very late 1840s. So, yeah, the with drape dies are typically credited to Robert Ball Hughes. We don't know for sure, but when you look at the artistry, there's some point to that.
Jumping ahead with quarters now with the no drapery and the drapery, and then like 1840 old quarters. With the no drapery, with the mid mark left and the mid mark right. That'd be something to kind of hone in on again as far as a little approach with that.
Sure. Okay. All right, any more questions online?
Nope.
All right, well, I think we'll wrap it up. Any other club notes?
Just stop by the club table, check out, whether you need to update your membership and, buy a shirt.
There you go. All right, there's 3 days of the coin show. You need one shirt for each day of the coin show.
I got too many shirts I wanna get rid of.
All right, very good. Well, hope everyone finds some good coins today, and we'll see you downstairs.